You still a hugger?
Yeah.
Side hug. I love to hug. And so the guys, they see me, the first thing, they got their arms open and they're hugging, and so I love to give hugs. Before I come to Teen Challenge, I didn't like to give hugs. So it was a bit odd. So 1958, David Wilkerson picks up a newspaper and he sees kids on trial, teenagers, 12, 13, 11, for murdering Michael Farmer, a polio boy in New York City. So you'll notice that we don't have any teens here. So we're actually in the process of changing our name legally to Adult and Teen Challenge of British Columbia. We've had a couple teens, and the way that it works in British Columbia is it just doesn't work under the law with children and youth and things like that. So we don't house anyone under the age of 19. We have had an 18-year-old before, and this was a few years ago where we were allowed to have their guardians sign off. But we have 19-year-olds and anywhere up to 53. We actually, in the Women's Center, we have a 61-year-old lady. She's a nurse. She's been addicted to drugs and alcohol and pills for 40 years. 51. Imagine being 51 after having a position and then listening to a 20-year-old leader in training tell you what you have to do. It's really difficult. Jason I came into the program, had a life in the marketplace, and Jason, who led worship, was my leader at 18. Crazy, And those are the kinds of things that go on. And so if you're in a position right now where someone of younger stature is in a position of authority, I sympathize with you. It's difficult. So, well, Jason, you were great, but you were 18 years old from Lambeth. I gave you my shoes to go to your grad. It was. One thing about Teen Challenge, it's great. It's been family for me. It's been an incredible opportunity to really restore what family is. I didn't have a good family. I brought up an alcoholic home. Beat my father up when I was 13 years old in my front yard because he used to beat my mom up. And so the cycle would continue. I tried to bring my 10-year-old youngest son today. I got 4 kids. He didn't want to come. He just sits over in the corner, and it's like I hear him all the time. I don't want to hear him talk anymore. But it's a privilege here. I want to just really commend Joey and Dennis and your leadership team here. But yeah. I've had the opportunity in the last couple of years to get to know them, and I'm sure that lots of you know them as well, but they are kingdom-minded. It is kingdom first, them second. It's a nice way to see behind the scenes. And so continue to believe that they have your best interests at hand. Incredible things in their lives that have happened and shaped and molded them to get to this place of being, planting a church and those kinds of things. And there's so many stories in here that you could tell me, but just when I spend some time with them, just to hear their journey. And I think that's what we're going to hear about today, is we're going to hear about a journey in people's lives. God's got us all on a journey. You don't have to go to Teen Challenge. You don't have to be hooked into drugs and alcohol. But God's got something handpicked, his fingerprint, to put in that one spot that only he can fill. He wants to put his fingerprint in that one area that you don't want to release to him today. That could be anything. But there's something stirring in us today because we came to church. And we walked through those doors. We got up today and we're like, I'm expecting something from the living God. Come expecting today. We're going to hear about Teen Challenge and people's journeys. Yeah, it's Teen Challenge. It's just an organization. But it's made up of people. And only thing God really cares about is his people. That we would reflect his son, Jesus. Somehow, some way that Anthony would get out of the way and that people would see Jesus in my life. I'm going to call up Neil in a moment here, and Neil's going to tell you a bit about a day in the life at Teen Challenge. It's not glamorous. Guys are in bunk beds. They do all their own chores. They do all their own cooking, cleaning, everything around the house. They listen to imperfect leadership. And they have to change a lifestyle that was addictive to selfishness to serving. Jesus came to serve, not to be served. And that's one of the hardest things to change, is that usually guys come to Teen Challenge and they're going to change us. Like, they're going to tell us how the rules are and things like that. And I just finished talking to Patrick today, and I remember when Patrick came in. I remember when Patrick came in. Wanted to, he came to help us. Right? You know, he came to help us. The Holy Spirit was doing a fine job, working through, and he's like, I didn't know that I would want to do this. I didn't know that I would want to change. I didn't know that God would change my life. And that's what you're doing when you're partnering with Teen Challenge. People's lives are changing. His life changed to reflect Jesus and less of him. And it's enjoyable to hang out with Patrick today. It's a privilege to hang out with him. Neil, come on up. I'm going to pray for you. And Neil's going to tell you a bit about life in a day at Teen Challenge. Neil's quite a story. I'll be honest with you, Neil. I never thought you'd stay. I never thought that you'd make it. Neil and Blake are graduating May the 6th. And so we prayed. Like, the leadership team, believe it or not, people pay me to pray. We prayed that Neil and Blake would graduate. We didn't know how they would. We have no idea. And you're going to hear about those kind of testimonies. So when you hear about the day that they have to go through, imagine one cup of coffee, only free time between 6 and 7. If you're not on discipline, you could have left your light on or been late or anything like that. We're really fortunate that God has chosen us to follow him. I have no idea why he chose me. I've done everything possible and blasphemed him to tell people that I was God, that he would allow us and to be part of your life, Neil. It is a privilege that you're my friend. It's a privilege to have seen God do something supernatural in your life. And today, because you allowed God and you said yes to him, you have the opportunity to give back to him.
That Anthony just described most of the day, I'm going to look at it in a different way today. Just a comparison of one day in my life before Teen Challenge and one day in life last week. Before Teen Challenge, I would wake up at about 5:30, get barely to work at 6 o'clock at Tim Hortons, work 8.5 hours, mostly just standing in front of the cash window at the drive-thru and taking your orders. And paying and talking to you in the window. Then at 2:30, I go home, grab a 12-pack or a 26er, and go to my computer and play for 8 to 10 hours. I was addicted to Warcraft, both online games, and that was my life. It was isolated, alone. All my social contact was either at work or online. I never wanted to go to events in town because I was shy and I was socially awkward. I would stay home, and a lot easier to deal with people through a keyboard than actually talking to them. Now, 1 year later, I am willing to stand up here. The Lord just touched me about 4 months in my program. I prayed for release from anxiety when speaking in public, and he touched me and let me let loose my tongue. And I just thank him for that chance to actually be willing to talk now. Take Monday, for example. We got up at 5:30 in the morning. I was in the bottom of a bunk bed, which after 15 years of living alone, that was as much of a struggle as anything else. Get up, have devotions, breakfast, and then they actually took me to the food bank and was able to volunteer for 6 hours that afternoon. So my focus was not on myself, but on someone else, to serve the community. With my unique gifts, I have high-functioning autism, and I was able to do barcode reading, sorting cans, just being in the back, talking with people older than me, and just really enjoying myself volunteering in the behind the scenes, not being the guy up front, but God's given me a gift of helping in the background. So we got home, had supper, then we went to rec at the H2O, the gym. I was actually able to bike an hour and 5 minutes on the bicycle, which usually my exercise was just walking to work and back in the old days. So I'm definitely healthier. I'm 20 pounds lighter than I was. My skin condition is gone, thanks to taking away the alcohol. And the Lord, and I'm very thankful the way that my life is now different. Also on Tuesday and Wednesdays we have chapels. Wednesday morning is open to anyone who comes to Lake Country at 9 a.m. We also have the times in the classroom. I was being able to read 3 or 4 books on teaching, because my goal is to go back to school to get my master's in theology and work, maybe become a teacher in a small group or a small little Bible school. Then we also, on the weekends, we have our Sunday morning is an outreach somewhere in the local community. We've gone everywhere from Oliver to Kamloops in my time here in the year. So we really get to experience the vast different denominations, the vast different worship styles, but always focusing on God and who He is and why we love Him. We also have video nights on Saturday nights. And then for me, one of the hardest things was every Friday night, instead of going out to the bar or going to watch a hockey game, we actually play board games and encourage each other to actually play together. I would always grew up to be a loner all through my life, and just to actually have one guy in the student body that keeps on coming to me, even when I'm grumpy, says, "Want to play a board game?" Even when I'm happy, "Want to play a board game?" He knows to keep on, and sometimes I'll just watch them play, and then I come in after the second round. But he has the patience and the willingness to work with me and love me the way I am, and encourage me to grow in a little bit different ways. So definitely, day in the life is different than what I was a year ago, but I'm very thankful that I'm here.
Appreciate it. Yeah, Neil's not a teen, so that's why we're changing the name. At the back, there's some information. We have a little condensed booklet of the Cross and the Switchblade. Some of you may have read it. Some of you may have heard of it. Some of you may not have read it. It's about how Teen Challenge got started. So I have a little condensed version of the Cross and the Switchblade. And they did it, condensed it, in the United States, that they found out that the majority of the men that came had in the United States, they only had very low reading. And so they made it condensed so that they could finish it. Neil's I don't know, if you ask Neil how many books he read while he was at Teen Challenge, it'd be more than I've read in my whole entire life. Some people function that way, right? And so it's on the back. Pardon me? 200 books. 200 books. 200 bucks at the time at Teen Challenge. Yeah. Neil, was one of them the Bible? Was one of them the Bible, hopefully? Yeah. Okay, good. So in the back, you can find out about partnering with us for $39 a month. It's a great way where you would get a student sponsor would come to either your mailbox or email about 2 guys at the Okanagan Center about what's happened in their life in the last month or how they came to Teen Challenge. And on the other side, it would talk about what's going on at Teen Challenge, the events and things like that. And we believe many people at modest amounts makes a huge difference. And so some people sit down to me and they go, "Well, why $39? Seems so little." You know what? Imagine 1,000 people at $39 sponsor the Okanagan Men's Center. It's incredible. You don't need to start giving huge gifts. $39 a month, and you get interaction of what's going on at Teen Challenge, the men and things like that. And it'll rotate the men. You'll find out about all of their lives, what's going on. And you can pray for them, and you can come to their grads and you can find out, and they'll pray for you. And it's such an incredible opportunity. Wednesday mornings, 9 a.m., Dennis and Joe come and they preach for us. And It's just an incredible time where the family comes. So if you're ever in Lake Country and you have the morning on a Wednesday, come by and see us. You can just Google us and give us the address. Probably the reason why I do what I do is that so I can hear someone's family member say, I have my son back. We're going to call up Tyler. And when Tyler came, I remember the phone calls that I would have with Sarah. I don't know if he's coming, can I phone Jason? And then Dennis and Joey would check in on me. No one can change a life like Jesus. Nobody. You can't tell someone. Only the Spirit of God, what we asked about today, can change a life. And when he comes up here, this is part of your success story. One life. When you partner with Teen Challenge. See this kid's life change. We've had 2 people die in the last year that came to Teen Challenge. Tyler is alive because Sarah believed in us. Believed in what we do. So Tyler, come on up and I'll pray for you. Gracious, loving Father, we thank you for this man. I look at him, he's a man. He's your son. Because of your presence, because of your great mercy and grace on his life, Lord, he stands here and gets to tell his family how good you are. So, Father, I pray that you just give him your shalom peace today. That you let him know you're well pleased with him. You're so well pleased with this man. God, I pray that you would just be glorified through your servant. We thank you for the man that he is and the man that you're making and where you're taking him to. God, you've got great plans for him. I pray your blessing, your anointing upon him today, God, for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, Anthony. This is, you're going to have to forgive me. My emotions have been going up and down all week. And right now I'm pretty nervous. But so forgive me if I stumble with my words. But I was just thinking, I didn't know quite how I was going to start this. But we were up there doing worship. And the first song we started singing, all this emotion just came to me. And I just started to cry, and just these waves of emotion came over me. And I remember walking in that door 2 years ago, and I was homeless. I didn't have a hope. I was angry. I was resentful. I didn't believe in God. I hated God. I was just negative, you know. And there wasn't much going on inside of me. And I was living in the homeless shelter, which Sarah works at, and they kick you out at 7 in the morning, right? So what else do you do on 7 in the morning on Sunday? And I walked into this church, and I sat down at the back to hide back there, and I couldn't even. I remember I couldn't sit through one song. I was just. It just my soul could not take it. It just made me so uncomfortable. And you see all these people worshiping and loving God, and you know, and just in that spirit, and it rubbed on something in me where I just couldn't do it, and I left. And then the next week, I told Sarah, I'm like, yeah, if I'm gonna come, you gotta come grab me from outside after the worship is done, and then I can come in. So she would do that for me. But how it all started is I just find this so amazing. I was in the shelter one night, and Sarah was watching something on the computer, and I walked in, and I asked her, "What are you watching?" And she said, "A sermon," and that changed my life. That changed everything for me, because that was the opening of the door, right? And that's all God needed. And I had this spirit inside of me where I thought that people who believed in God were weak, and they just needed something to grab onto and to hold onto. In this, they just needed to create something in their mind to get through life, you know. And I I didn't. My perspective now has completely changed, obviously, but at the time, I just, that was my outlook on people who believed in God. And through those conversations with Sarah, I would talk with her, and I would stay up, and she'd let me stay up till way past the bedtime sometimes, and we'd just talk, and I'd ask her questions, and she'd tell me about her life and her testimony, and it was just it was a good time. I'll always look back at that time in my life with fondness. It means a lot to me, even though I was homeless, and I was coming out of so much stuff in my life. Like, I didn't have a very good family life, and I was missing love in my life, and that's what I needed. And long story short, basically, and I look back at that time with a lot of fondness, and it makes me really happy now to look back on it. But I would come here and there, and I remember I walked out on the beach one night, and I brought the Bible with me, and I accepted God into my life, but I just still did not believe in God, But I said, if you're real, through what Sarah said to me, then just come into my life. And then it was about a year after that I got a job, and I moved to Summerland, and I started to go through some things, and I've been hooked on drugs since I was 14 years old. It ruled my whole life, and at first it wasn't even about the drugs. It was just about finding something to just grab onto, and something just a piece of acceptance or something, and it was about love. That's what it was. And so that year I was continuing to drink and do drugs, and it got worse and worse and worse, and I started to use coke more often, and I stayed up one night doing drugs all night, and I went to work the next day, and I was just puking sick. And something happened to me that day while I was at work, and I don't know why. Well, I guess I do know why, but I kept on seeing Jesus on the cross in my mind, and I remember I couldn't even work. Like, I was in the bathroom every 5 minutes just bawling my eyes out, because that image of him on the cross, it just hit me so powerfully. And then, I didn't really know what was going on, and I saw Sarah a week after that. Like, I hadn't seen her for a year or something like that, close to it. And then I saw her a week after that, and then I told her that, and what would you do if you were in Sarah's position, and somebody who was an unbeliever told you that? I don't know what's going on, but she knows, right? She knows God is speaking to this boy. So that was it. She was just relentless after that, and she never stopped bothering me. And I would, I remember you guys were having a conference here last year. She's like, I really want you to come. I was like, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. It makes me feel uncomfortable, and she just wouldn't stop. And thank you, by the way. And she just wouldn't stop. And she's like, I'm like, well, I can't get a ride there. I'm like, I live in Summerland. I don't drive. And there's no chance, right? And she's like, well, I'll find you a ride. I was like, oh, man. So she found me a ride, and she's sitting in the back there. Hi, Heather. I miss you. But she found me a ride, and with this wonderful lady over here, who's like the kindest person I've ever met in my life. I cried when I saw you this morning. And I came here, and we did the morning service, and I was like, this makes me feel really uncomfortable. I can't do it. Walked away, and then there was one at 6, and I don't know if you guys remember. It was that Luke guy that was speaking. You remember him? Anybody? Yeah? Okay. So I talked to God. I didn't believe in God, but I talked to him that day, and I said, if you're real, this is your chance to reveal yourself to me, because I'm going to do this, and then that's it. I'm just show yourself to me. And I challenged him, and I said, I bet you can't prove to me that you're real. And I don't know if you remember what Luke was talking about that night, But God speaks to us in different ways, and He opens our hearts in different ways. I've noticed with all the guys here, and what I needed to hear from God, He gave to me in that moment. I needed to hear the miracles and the testimonies and the love, and the evangelism and the fruits of the Spirit working in somebody else. I needed the evidence that you could hold and grasp and feel and look at that was it was there, and He gave me that, and I was sitting there, and I didn't know what it was, and there's just this heaviness fell in the room, and I looked around me, and everybody's crying, and I had no idea what was going on, and I'm like, what is wrong with these people, right? And but I knew that was it, and I knew that God was real in that moment, and nothing changed it. So I came up here, and they prayed for me, and that was it, But God came into my life, and He started working in me with His Spirit. But as soon as God comes into your life, He said, the Holy Spirit, He says, the Holy Spirit comes to convict the world of its sin, and you can't live that same lifestyle anymore. I would get high, and it just wasn't the same anymore. All these things in my brain that used to satisfy me and that I used to go after, it's like they weren't. God would say to me, Jesus would say to me over and over again, what are you doing to yourself? You're just destroying yourself, and it was like a tape playing in my head that I could not get rid of, and it was never the same again, and but I rebelled against God for a long time. I think it was April to December 15th I came into Teen Challenge, but I didn't. I was just, the enemy knew that was my weak point, that drugs were it, and that's how he was going to get me. And he almost did, but, by the grace of God, I'm standing here before you today. And, coming to Teen Challenge, it's just given me a safe place to grow closer to the Lord, and to be around kingdom-minded people and people that want to get closer to God. I love all you guys. You're all my brothers, and we'll be together forever, in this life and the next. And every time, it's God has been working in my spirit lately, and He's been showing me things. When I see new people come into the door, and I see the way that God is working in people's lives, the guys in Teen Challenge, I just see this redemption, That's what God does. He just comes into your life, and you're never the same again. And it's an amazing thing to watch. It's a privilege. It's an honor. And it's everything that I went through. It's worth it to see that. It's totally worth it. And God's just He's given me this spirit where it's like I'm able to say no. I'm able. He's because. I don't know. It's not me, right? It's something else. Because by myself, in my own nature, I wanna die, and I wanna kill myself. And I don't mean like put a gun to my head or anything. I mean like the way that sin is death. The wages of sin are death. That's what I mean by it. I want to. That's what I want to do in my flesh. That's what my flesh cries out for me to do. But since coming to Teen Challenge, God has just put this thing inside of me that it's just the spirit of life, and it's the most beautiful thing, and it's great. So I want to thank everybody in this church who's prayed for me, that's been there for me, that never gave up on me, that just gave their all for me. You guys, you played the part in saving my life. So I thank you all.
Yeah, bud. Great job. Let's give the Lord a round of applause for that. I mean, this is awesome. Thank you, Lord. I'm going to call the panel up, 4 guys and Riley. Riley's going to do the panel. There's 4 guys with a moderator. And they're going to ask some questions. You're going to get an opportunity to see 4 different lives at Teen Challenge. When Riley came to us, another guy from the south of Okanagan, he was a disaster. been living in his basement, smoking weed, he was full of depression. And he just got back from an 8-week Philippines missions trip. He graduated from Teen Challenge, and those are the kinds of things that you're partnering with us when you sign up for $39 a month. You're partnering with guys getting their lives back on, and you get to know what's going on for them. And there's information back there, and you take a pamphlet home with you and mail it to us. But yeah, you get partner of what's going on. And so there's 4 guys here, and it's just incredible to see them. I mean, yeah, we put suits on and ties and stuff like that. But I mean, just a disaster when you come. Like, I was sleeping in an excavator before I came to Teen Challenge. I just got out of jail. I showed up with my Air Wardens on, my jail shoes, and a plastic bag of luggage and feces in my pants. That's how I showed up at Teen Challenge. I wasn't allowed to go home. Had a house and cars, and I wasn't allowed home. Wasn't allowed to go see my kids or nothing. I got to Teen Challenge. Then he radically changed my life. And so you're part of that success story for the whole province. 53 people getting their lives back together so that they can be mighty men back in the community, productive members of society. And so I thank you for that.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Riley.
This is my favorite part because I get to do it. But other reasons as well. This is just a chance to really hear about the experiences of multiple students. So yeah, we can just start with Patrick, and well, there's your name, but share your name and how long you've been in the program, where you're from.
I'm Patrick. I'm originally from Nova Scotia. Been at West about 12 years, and I've been in the program coming up on 8 months. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Richard. I'm from Brandon, Manitoba originally, and I've been here for 5 months.
I'm Chris. I've been in the program 5 months, and I'm originally from Manitoba, but been in the Okanagan for 8 years.
My name's Randy. I'm from Lethbridge, Alberta. I just started into my 11th month here.
Okay, Randy, tell us a bit about how in your addiction your relationships were damaged, and just how has God brought healing to those relationships?
I have a fiance and two daughters back home. So things were getting pretty rough there. I struggled with crack cocaine, and I was just like a tornado, just roaring through, the lives of my loved ones. My fiance, she didn't know what to expect from day to day. I would be running off with the money, spending money for Christmas on crack. It was horrible. Addiction was just ruining my family's life. And, in the 11 months that I've been here, through God changing my life, it has drastically affected the lives of my children and my fiance. I get to go home on a pass in a couple days here, and I'm just so excited to go home and see my kids. I miss them so much, and being here and missing them has probably been the hardest part. So just being able to be there for my kids and being a father is probably one of the greatest things that this program has done for me.
Awesome. Great to hear things like that. And Chris, what's one thing God's been teaching you lately?
That he's in control. For me, control is a big part of my life. It's just with a lot of insecurities. But now God's kind of, even with my willingness to give him control, he's kind of pushing me into giving him control and opening up doors for that to happen. It's been a tough journey, but slowly, day by day, he's revealing more areas of my life that I need to give him control to, and it's been really awesome. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Ricky, share with us about just the hope God's been giving you for your future.
Well, lots of big dreams, actually. Some people might think I'm crazy, Anyway, one they like to call Ricky's Traveling Church. It's an idea for a traveling church. And I have an idea for like a coffee shop kind of ministry. And then there's another one that's a mentorship for men. So I believe God's given me those dreams and hope to see them come to pass one day.
I'll keep my eyes open for Ricky's Traveling Church coming to a town near you. Right. Patrick, do you have a word of encouragement for someone who's currently in addiction?
Read the Bible? No, that is one, but there's hope. There's hope. That's it. I mean, with hope comes faith, and with faith comes courage. That's what's tattooed on my arm. And it's a constant reminder for me that that hope is there. And it's found through so many people and so many things. And God never gives up, ever. He'll follow you to the depths and just say, hey, I'm here. And so it's up to us, it's up to me to take that step and say, okay, I'm ready. So, yeah, there's hope.
We'll go back down to Randy. Thanks, Patrick. And just tell us about one thing God's been teaching you lately.
Well, when I was in detox, I remember I went to these stairs at church, and I was sitting on these stairs and I started crying, and it was Father's Day the next day, so I was going to be spending Father's Day in detox, and I was sitting on these stairs crying, and I remember looking up, and on the back side of this church sign it said, "Peace be with you," and I just broke down even more, and God has just been kind of giving me that peace within, that unshakable, unbreakable peace, and it's only through a relationship with Him that I found that, and I could look to the future just with a new confidence, and it's because of God. So, yeah, thank you.
Chris, what's God been telling you about your future? What hope do you have for your future now?
My future. Apparently God's got big plans for me. He's making that evident more and more and every day, and I'm asking Him to reveal that to me and to kind of confirm it, because for me it's even just being up here right now. I think I was in program 2 years ago, and I told my testimony once, and I don't know how, Anthony was there, I was shaking pretty bad. And for me to stand up here is huge, so I know God's got, just big plans for me to speak into people's lives and take what Satan had used for destruction and turn it for His glory and just bring light to this world. So, yeah.
Amen. Richard, do you have a word of encouragement for a family member of someone who's in addiction?
Well, I would just say encourage them to go to detox and then hopefully Teen Challenge. If Teen Challenge isn't available, then another Christian program.
All right. Absolutely. And Patrick, just share briefly about how in addiction maybe your relationships with other people were damaged, and just since coming to Teen Challenge, how those have been restored.
Well, Anthony already kind of said how I was when I came in. I knew everything. I thought I did anyway. In addiction, I used people. I've been a believer my whole life, but I used people. I used my parents, I used my friends. Very good with my words, so I could get away with whatever I wanted. There was no discipline in my life, so I did what I wanted. I said what I wanted, and I got what I wanted. I hurt a lot of people. And the enemy let me know that daily. When I came into Teen Challenge, James Beaver said to me, he goes, you're going to hear no a lot. And I didn't really understand what that meant. I really didn't. Yeah, no, countless times. And it has helped me become second. That's what my bracelet says here. And with becoming second and learning to become second and stop trying to be in the front of everything and make myself known, I've been able to restore relationships with family. I've been able to build relationships with these guys. And how many times in my life did God say, get out of my way? How many times did these guys look at me and say, Pat, what are you doing? Seriously. And these guys never gave up on me. Jason never gave up on me. Teen Challenge never gave up on me. And they just kept pushing it forward and saying, hey, just do this, man. Just step aside. Just step aside. Step under the covering of Teen Challenge and just be. And today I can just be. I've gone through a lot of discipline to become second. And it's completely shattered everything about who I am. And it's awesome. It's awesome. So, yeah. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you all of you for sharing. I appreciate you guys getting up here, and yeah, thanks.
What do I do with this thing?
It's always a privilege to be able to tell people and talk to them about what's going on at Teen Challenge. I know that Dennis went and got some pizza, so I hope that you stay and mingle with us and that you would tell us what's going on in your life. I think one of the toughest things to do for the guys who are at Teen Challenge is like that family dynamic, how you sit there and talk and share and be vulnerable. That was one of the most uncomfortable things without being medicated or, in a different world. Just be life. The Israelites wandered around for 40 years in the desert. And I remember sitting at Teen Challenge, I was underneath the cross, and I was turned 40. It was my 40th birthday. And I heard this plain as day, and maybe some of you need to think this. I needed to ask God that I could come out of the desert. I needed to stop wandering. I think some of us are gone back to Egypt because it's comfortable. Guys leave Teen Challenge and they forget about the slavery that they were in. The miraculous that God has done in our life. And we're waiting for this next burning bush, waiting for God to do something when He's already parted the seas, where He's brought manna from the sky. He's provided everything. And I'm still waiting for the next miracle. God wants to let you know that the person sitting next to you is the next miracle. That life is the miracle. We have to stop going back to Egypt. Egypt in Greek means dark. Stop going back into that. God is on the move, my brother. He's moving supernaturally. Jason? Music? Jason's nodding. Yeah, but I'm coming up. I don't know what you need today, but God does. Like Tyler, I was so nervous. It's like coming home for me here. Nervous, nervous, nervous. I stayed at Dennis's last night. I got up early, left, and I just need to get away. I was so nervous. That's good for me. You guys have been great for Teen Challenge. I may be the person who leads us, but it's been great for them. It has infused our leadership. It's brought us to a place of prayer. It's brought into a different place of excitement and what's going on in our lives. So if you leave here today and you think, I'm making a difference, you are making a difference. Make a difference to your neighbor or to that person that you don't like at work. Help someone come out of Egypt.